Mm, yeah. Where are you guys finding recording? Oh, I think it's YouTube, isn't it? Is your Google Classrooms? Okay. Okay. So it should be on Google Classrooms. Okay. Right. Any questions from anyone before we start the main lesson? Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next part. Now, the next two lessons that we have are quite tricky. Okay, so I'm gonna try and simplify it as much as I can. Might just spend a bit longer on this. Okay. Again, so we're gonna complete this case ending. We're gonna try and complete this today, but we'll extend it to the next lesson. Now, this is gonna refer uh to the ending of the ism because we're focusing on case ending. Now, there's a lot of Arabic terms there, which I don't mind if you don't fully grasp it, but I want you to understand the concept of this lesson. So this lesson is about declension. Now, what do we mean by declension? This is only focusing on that first column. So the Muslimun, Musliman, I mean, it's not focusing on Muslimani, Maini, Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina. This is only focused on that first column. And the reason I don't want to say the singular is because there are words which end with un and in, and they're not singular. Okay, that's going to be our next lesson. Okay, so I'm just saying, focusing on the first column, which is the Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. So this discussion we're having now is all about that first column. So what do we mean by declension? It's the ability of the word to change its ending. That's what we mean by declension. So a word may fully decline, and what we mean by that is that it can take all three unique endings. So what do we mean? It's Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. So a word like that, when you look at Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, it's got three different endings. You can hear the sound, and it's three unique endings, right? Un and in. That type of word is fully declinable. And that's most of your words. So most Arabic isms are going to be fully declinable. They'll take all three unique endings, un and in. Then you have the other extreme, and this is only a select, maybe 7 or 8 groups of words where the ending doesn't change. The ending is always the same. For example, the word hada. Hada means this. Hada, if I was to ask you, Sister Famida, what's the rafa, nasb, and jar of hada? What would you say? I gave you the word hada. How would you try and make it into rafa, nasb, and jar?
Read.
Yeah, online as well, if you have any answers.
Azu,
Okay,
Azar, Azin.
yeah, okay. So we say hadun, hadan, hadin, or hadu, hada, hadi. Okay, that's what we would assume it to be. But what we're learning in this lesson is that there are certain words where once you learn what the ending, the initial end, the normal ending is, the ending will always stay the same. It's not going to be hadu, hada, hadi. Hada will always be hada. It's not going to be hadun or hadin or hadan. It's hada. So hada will always be hada in the rafa, hada in the nasb, hada in the jar. So you got words which are fully declinable. They have un and in ending. And there are certain words which have only one ending. That's what we mean by non-declinable. So fully declinable and non-declinable. So there are other words that we will learn, like pronouns. For example, huwa. Huwa will always be huwa. It'll be huwa, huwa, huwa. There are other words like amsi, which means yesterday. It'll always be amsi, amsi, amsi. So it's not always going to have a type ending. It can have any ending. But once you find what that ending is, it's always going to be the same ending. Do we get that so far? Yeah. So fully declinable, and then you have non-declinable. So fully declinable, the Arabic term is munsarif. You'll have it in the but don't worry if you can't learn these terms. But I need you to know the English terms at least. Fully declinable, which is munsarif, and non-declinable, called mabni. Now, mabni is a very advanced concept. So I'm not going to focus on mabni at all. I'm going to briefly go through an exercise where we do mabni, but mabni is not the focus today and not the focus of level 1. Okay, but it's just there so we understand this concept. Yeah, so it's in your course booklet. So if you look under declinable and non-declinable, so you have the breakdown mu'rab, which just means a word declines, and then you have mabni, which is non-declinable. Under mu'rab, you have two types. So we've done one so far. Munsarif, which means it's fully declinable, and mabni is non-declinable, meaning the ending doesn't change. The focus of this lesson is the one in between, which is the ghayr munsarif, which is basically meaning it doesn't fully decline, and it's also not non-declinable, meaning it has two types of ending. So fully declinable takes 3 endings, partly declinable can take 2 endings, and non-declinable, which is mabni, only takes 1 ending. Everyone okay online so far? Yeah, you can hear me okay? Yeah. Right. Have you understood that concept so far? What we mean by declension? We haven't done partly declinable just yet, but we understand what we mean by fully, partly, and non-declinable. Okay. Arabic terms, it'll be nice if you know it, but don't worry if you don't get it. And you'll see under declinable, we've used the terms rafa, nasb, and jar. Under mabni, we've used mabni ala sukun, mabni ala kasra, mabni ala fatha, mabni ala dhamma. This is not going to make any sense to you at the moment. So don't worry about this section. There is an exercise on mabni, which we will do together. But I don't need you to worry on this. I just need you to understand there are certain words where the ending doesn't change. Okay. Now, if we look here, I want you to either circle or I don't want you to put an X through it, but if you look under here, you've got Muhammadun, we've got Muhammadan, Muhammadin. Is that fully declinable? Is it partly declinable, or is it non-declinable? Fully, because you got unique endings, un and in. But when you look at the word next to it, mustashfan, 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 it's got the same ending, right? But in this example, it's actually fully declinable. So this one, again, this is advanced. I want you to just circle it, meaning we're going to come back to this at another point. Okay? There's a reason it's fully declinable, although it looks like it's mabni. It's got the one same ending. So there are certain words which we will learn later on, which have this alif or this ya without the dots, that they look like it's mabni, but they're not really mabni. Really, mustashfan is mustashfayun, mustashfayan, and mustashfayin. And rule is become mustashfan, mustashfan, mustashfan. So I want you to ignore this for now. Okay? I don't want you to focus on that at all. What I do want you to focus on is Muhammadun, Muhammadan, and Muhammadin, which is fully declinable. Then you have the word Ibrahim. Now, what do you notice about the word Ibrahim? Why is it partly? So I want you to tell me what you see when you look at Ibrahim in the Rafa, in the Nas, and in the jar. And I want you to tell me two things about it. What is up with the word Ibrahim? And for future reference, when we talk about case ending, what chart do I want you to remember? When I talk about declension, I just want you to remember Salawat Ibrahimiyya. Because if you remember that, it helps me, it might help you guys as well. And we'll go through Salawat Ibrahim at the end. Muhammadun, Muhammadan, Muhammadin, Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. What is the difference? You tell me the difference.
There's only two endings.
That's the first thing. What are the two endings?
Dhamma and Fatha.
Yeah, I don't want you to say it's only Rafa and Nasb, because it's Rafa, Nasb. Every ism will be Rafa, Nasb, and Jar, or Jar. But what you see here, Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima, what ending is missing for it to be fully declinable?
Mim.
Ibrahimi, right?
No.
It should have been Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahimi. Internet connection. Okay, please let me know if the internet goes, because it might break up in a bit. So Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahimi, it should have been. But what is it? It's Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. So what is the same? The nasb on the jar is exactly the same for Ibrahim. That's one thing. So the first thing is that it doesn't take a kasra. So partly declinable words do not take a kasra. And the second thing is, what's the second thing? Yeah, that's the second thing. So partly declining words, there are two rules for it. Or there's more. There are two conditions. It can't take a kasra and it can't take a tanween. So normally it should have been Ibrahimun, Ibrahiman, Ibrahimin. But it isn't. It's Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. So it can't take a kasra and it can't take a tanween. Okay? That's the only thing you need to know about partly declinable words. So we need to know which words are partly declinable. So we're going to cover a few of them, and you just have to remember when you come across them that it's partly declinable, and that there are other groups as well. Okay. I'll come back to Mabni, because Mabni I don't want to spend time on that now. Okay, so you've got your rules here. If you want to highlight it, you can do it in your book. It has no tanween, and the jar ending doesn't have a kasra, it has a fatha. So Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. So now which type of words are partly declinable? And that is mentioned here. So for now, we're just learning 5. There are many more, but these 5 are very common. Okay. The one that's the most common is feminine names. Not masculine, but feminine names. So words like, or names like Fatima, Fatima 2. So what would the rafa and the nasb and the jar of Fatima be? Yeah. Zainabu, Zainaba, Zainaba. Maryamu, Maryama, Maryama. Aminatu, Aminata, Aminata. The mistake would be if you forgot that it's partly declinable, you would end up saying Zainabu, Zainaba, Zainabi. Right? Zainabi doesn't exist. Can't take a kasra. Then the other one is masculine names which end with a ta marbuta, around ta. So not all masculine names. Which ones specifically? The ones that end with a ta marbuta. So Usama is Usama too, not Usama. Hamza too, Hamzata, Hamzata. Yeah, Nuruddin.
Yes, alaikum. Just confused as to how to identify those names that are non-declinable, if I get it, as you explained on masculine names.
Yeah.
For example, um, Okay, feminine names rather, Maryam and Zainab. They don't have ta marbut. So how will one
Yeah,
identify them
yeah.
when one sees them?
So yeah, good question. You just need to know that it's a feminine name. You just have to know that it's a name of a not, I wouldn't say name of a female, because a female might have a masculine name, but you just have to know that the name is feminine. There doesn't have to be a ta marbuta at the end. Ta marbuta is a good clue, but if it's a feminine name, can someone else think of a feminine name that doesn't have a ta marbuta at the end? Sakina has a ta at the end, I think.
Zahra.
Sakina. Zahra is one. But the thing with Zahra, yeah, it's fine. Zahra is fine. But Zahra, I think Zahra is also Zahra too, maybe.
Jaida.
Khadija, Layla. Yeah. There's a few. So as soon as you see a feminine name, then know it's going to be partly declinable.
So is it all
And then masculine names that will end with a ta.
is it all feminine names?
All feminine.
Okay.
All feminine. Yeah, all feminine names. Because not necessarily names of females, like if that makes sense, because female called Hamza, I don't know, that may exist somewhere, but feminine names are actually feminine. Those will be partly declinable. And names of masculines that end with a ta, words on the pattern of ahsan. So I just want you to remember Allahu Akbar. Akbaru. It's not Allahu Akbarun. It's Akbaru. Okay. So the rafa, the nasb, and the jar of Akbaru will be Akbaru, Akbara, Akbara. Okay. And then you have words which are non-Arabic in origin. Okay. So Williamu, Yusuf, Ibrahim, Musa. I know Musa looks like it's going to be, it's one of those that has got a ya without the dots. But Musa, because it has a type of ending, Musa will always be Musa. It'll be Musa, Musa, Musa. So remember, if it has an alif ending, it has a ya without the dots, which is also an alif maksura, the ending will always be the same. But you don't say mabni just yet. Okay. Here we'll say partly declinable. Ibrahim. So there are, I think that there are only 4 Arabic prophets or Arab prophets. Hud alayhi salam, Salih, Shu'aib, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the rest are all non-Arabic names. So Yusuf, Ibrahim, Yunus, Nuh is an exception, and Nuhun is fully declinable. We'll cover the rules later on. Okay, so non-Arabic names, feminine names, masculine names ending with a ta marbuta, words on the pattern of af'al, so akbaru, ajmalu, ahsanu, atwalu, and so on. And names of places that do not begin with an al. So for example, Makkah, whenever you say the word Makkah, usually you don't say al-Makkatu, you say Makkah. So you say Makkatu, Makkata, Makkata. Pakistan, which is Pakistan, Pakistanu, Pakistana, Pakistana. Words which, names of places which do begin with an al are fully declinable. So Al-Qahira, Cairo, is Al-Qahiratu, Al-Qahirata, Al-Qahirati. Okay. So these are the types of words which are partly declinable, and there are more. Okay.
Ustad, I have a
But what's
question.
yeah?
Why are you treating Musa as Mabni? Because it only has one case ending, right? Musa, Musa, and Musa.
Yeah, Musa is not, Musa, it looks mabni, but it isn't mabni. It falls under this category here. So for mabni, once you know what the groups are, it's too early to discuss what the groups are. Anything other than that is going to fall either in the fully declinable or partly declinable. So there are like 6, 7, or 8 groups of mabni words. If it falls under them, then it's going to be mabni. So there are certain words I think we mentioned here. So here, you've got a list here, which we're not studying at the moment. Pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, relative pronouns, adverbs, and so on. There's quite a few groups of words which are mabni. We haven't learnt them. Although Musa looks like it's got only one ending, and it has only got one ending. But because it's got this ya without the dots, or this alif at the end, it's going to be either fully declinable or partly declinable. So I don't want you to worry about mabni just yet.
Understood. Thank you.
Sorry, say that again because it's just breaking up online.
I'm sorry. I said I understood it. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't worry about mabni too much. Just understand what the concept is. And there might be words which look mabni that end with an alif or this ya without the dots. But don't worry about them too much just yet. Okay, so what's the rule with partly declinable words? What are the two things about partly declinable?
They are having the kasra.
No kasra, no tanween.
No
And
tanween,
which
yeah.
are they? We've got the 5 groups here. Okay. Now, I say salawat Ibrahimiyya. So you say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin, right? So you will learn later on, ala is something which makes the next word jar. So ala Muhammadin. So whenever you see ala, the next word will be jar. So Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin, and so on. Then you say wa ala ali, no, salli ala Muhammad wa ala, or you say Allahumma salli ala, yeah. So you say ala Ibrahima, you don't say ala Ibrahimi. Why do you not say ala Ibrahimi? It can't, it can be, it is jar, it can't take the kasra. So yeah, good. It is jar, but Ibrahim can't take kasra. It can only take the fatha. All right, that's why it's not ala Ibrahimi. It's ala Ibrahima. Okay. Does that make sense so far? Yeah, partly declinable can only take two endings, which are u and a. Can't take the kasra, and it can't take the tanween at the end. Okay. Now there is just one rule that you need to remember. If you have a partly declinable word and you add an al to it, it becomes fully declinable. Okay. So for example, akbar, not every word is going to be able to take an al. There are certain words. But as soon as you see an al before it, before a word, it's going to be fully declinable. As soon as you see an al, it's going to be fully. So it's akbaru, akbara, akbara. As soon as I've added an al to that, it becomes al akbaru, al akbara, al akbari. So just remember that. And it's a fully declinable. Okay, so to kind of summarize today's lesson, we've got words which are fully declinable. What's the Arabic term? Munsarif. Then you've got words which are non-declinable. We call them mabni. And then we have words which are in between, we call partly declinable. We call them غير munsarif. غير munsarif. And what's the rule for partly declinable? They can't take a kasra and they can't take a tanween. And an example of a partly declinable word is Muhammadun is fully Ibrahim. So you've got words which masculine names which end with a ta marbuta. You got feminine names. You got names of places that don't begin with an al, akbaru, words in the pattern of af'alu, and so on. Okay. Any questions before we go through some exercises?
Ustad, can I
And-
just ask,
Yeah.
you know, when you add the is it for a specific category? Because you said there's 5 categories of partly
Yeah,
words.
words which can take an al. So there are certain words which you will learn as you go along that simply just can't take an al. So like names, most likely names can't take an al. It's usually these words here, mainly here.
Okay, perfect.
There might be some. There will be certain. The reason I don't want to pinpoint it to this category only is because there will be words that you learn later on where you can add an al. But generally, with names, you don't add an al. And names of places, you don't usually add an al unless it's already written that way. So like Cairo usually has an al-Qahira. So when you learn the names, you will learn them with the al or without the al. But to be specific, al means the, yeah.
Is it like proper nouns? They don't have alif lam in the beginning.
Proper nouns do not have, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you can. Well, Cairo is also a proper noun. Al-Haq, yeah. Al-Haq, yeah, so you've got an al. So normally the word is haqqun. So you would be munsarif because you're al. You've got an al at the beginning. So like, for example, Hussein, Hussein is also common to say al-Hussein. So that'll be munsarif. But for this lesson, we've only seen it with the usage of this one here. This last category where we're adding an al to ahsan because it's quite common to add al to words which are like af'al. Okay. And then you've got a box here with all the 5 examples. Well, let's do some practice. And then I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 3 or 4 more lessons before we start making some simple sentences. So next week, try and go through the number section. It is quite intense. So we might spend 1 or 2 lessons on that. Gender and type are very easy, so we're not going to spend too long on that. And then we'll start doing sentences, and then we'll start the extra morning session as well before class. But let's do some practice of this first. So see here, you see mabni missed out because the focus is not on mabni. So let's do a few. I'll say the word which I want you to tell me about, and then you tell me whether it's fully declinable or partly. And if it's partly, tell me the reason for it to be partly. So reason, no tanween, no kasra, and which group it belongs to. Okay. So let's do the first one. Baytin. You can see that. Baytin. Zishan, if you could tell me Baytin, is it fully declinable or partly declinable? So we can see it here. Baytin. You can see that. Huh? So Baytin, fully or partly? And what's the proof that it's fully declinable? Has a tanween and it also has a kasratain. So Baytin, as soon as you see E or N, you know it's fully, right? Baytin. Next, but the ikhlas. Yeah, if you could tell me about the word Isa. Is Isa fully declinable or partly declinable? Yeah, so it's one of those which looks mabni because it's got a ya with us without the dots. Isa will always be Isa, Isa, Isa in the Rafa Nasb Jar. But why is it fully or partly? What was your answer? And the reason is partly declinable. There's no tanween and another, but what group does it belong to? Out of the five groups we've learned. Yeah, so non-Arabic names. Non-Arabic names. Isa is a non-Arabic name. So really, here, Isa, it doesn't make much of a difference to know whether it's partly or fully, because Isa will always be Isa, 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 right? It'll be Isa. It'll only be relevant if I was to ask you, is Isa Rafa, Nasb, or Jar? Then you have to tell me here, in this case, Isa could be Rafa, it could be Nasb, or it could be Jar. Because you don't know what the ending is. Right? Whereas when you look at Zainaba, Sister Famida, if you could do the word Zainaba, when you look at the word Zainaba, you see what's missing first. That's the first thing you should, so this should be your thought process. As soon as you see Zainaba, you see that the noon sound is missing. Because it should be Zainaban, right? So noon sound is missing. Why is that noon sound missing? Or what has caused the noon sound to be dropped first? Is it a noon that's been dropped, or is it a tanween that's been dropped? Tanween's been dropped, right? Because it's not wa with a sukoon, ya with a sukoon, or alif with a sukoon. It's Zainaba. Should have been Zainaban. Okay, so the first thing is tanween's been dropped. Now you have to ask yourself, why has the tanween been dropped? Is there a word that I've learned where the tanween has to be dropped? Zainaba. Why is it Zainaba and not Zainaban? Good. Yeah. I'm just taking you through the thought process. No noon sound. Okay. Why is there no noon sound? Perhaps it's a word which we learned, which are partly declinable words, where the noon sound, the tanween is dropped. So Zainaba, is it fully declinable or is it partly declinable?
Partly, it's غير منصرف.
غير منصرف, partly declinable. Does that make sense? Yeah. Zainaba is a feminine name, which means it can't take a tanween and it can't take a kasra. So last question, Sister Famida. Zainaba, is it Rafa, is it Nasb, or is it Jar? Okay, that's one answer. Any other answers?
Nafsu
Or Jar.
or
Yeah.
Jar.
Nasb or Jar.
Or Jar.
Because you don't know, right?
Mm. Can I ask a-
Zainabu,
I have a question.
yeah.
So there are some words which we might not know, like the original, the default word. For instance, the word Zainaba.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if I see, let's assume I'm just saying the Arabic spelling of Zainaba for the first time. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know that's not the default spelling. I would think, oh, Zainaba is Zainaba. Maybe that's the default spelling. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
know that a new sound has been dropped. So there's some words that by default,
Yeah.
one might not know their original state. So how are we supposed to address that?
This is going to be your vocab. I can only say this is vocab. So you have to learn the words. So now you've come across Zainab, and I'm telling you it's Zainabu normally, and it's partly declinable. You just have to learn the words as you go along. So normally, when you're reading Arabic, there's no harakas on there. But the more you see the word, the more familiar you become with it. So for example, I'll give you one word now. So you should remember this. I Right. Any attempts in reading that word?
Masajid.
Yeah, so some of you are familiar with this word already. Okay? Masajid. You know it's a fatha on the meme. You know it's a kasra on the jim. How do you know it? Because you know the word. Some of you have read it. So for those who have never come across this word before, will be struggling. Is it Musa, Ja? You wouldn't know. Unless you come across. Now you come across the word masajid, you know it's masajid. Now the only thing that you don't know at the moment is what kind of ending does it have. So your normal ending is what? So masaji, dun, right? That's your normal ending. That's what you would assume, and you're right to assume that. But now I have to go in and tell you it's not masajidun, it's masajidu. It's not dun. Now next time you will remember it's masajidu. Why is it masajidu and not masajidun? This is a type of partly declinable word. So there are words with certain patterns on the pattern of mafa'ilu, masajidu, makarimu, so on. We will learn these later on. But the thing is, the reason I mention this is you don't know how the word is going to be unless you learn it. And then once you've learned it, you will remember that it's like this. That's all. Okay, so now you remember next time masajid is partly declinable. Which means what? Masajidu will be masajidu, masaji, masaji. Now what happens if I say al-masajidu? So now you say al-masajidu, al-masajida, al-masajidi. Okay, we get the rule. Good. Right, next one. Let's do the word Talha. So someone online. Talhatu. Anyone online? Any takers? Talha.
Fully declinable.
Okay. So for every word you have to give like a what do you say? Proof, evidence.
Oh, Arabic
Yes,
name.
Talha sounds Arabic. It might be Arabic, but is it a masculine name or a female name?
Oh, okay. Female. So in that case, it'll be partly declinable.
Okay. So maybe it might be female, but usually Talha is a masculine name. So Talha is a masculine name. So the default is masculine names are fully declinable unless they have what at the end?
Ta marbuta.
Ta marbuta at the end. So masculine names with a ta marbuta at the end, this ta, are partly declinable. So that's your reason. So Talhatu, Talhata, Talhata. So that's a masculine name with a ta marbuta, hence it is partly declinable. Now contrast that to al-madrasa. Al-madrasa. So here vocab is important. So vocab will help you figure out whether it's, if you've seen al-madrasa for the first time, you might think this is a masculine name with a ta marbuta at the end, for example. But al-madrasa, and it should be in your vocab section. Al-madrasa is what? School. So al-madrasa, is it partly declinable or fully declinable?
Fully.
Fully. But what's your proof that al-madrasa, other than the meaning, it is fully declinable?
Yeah, alif at the beginning.
Yeah, it's got an al. So al in the beginning is telling you that it is fully declinable.
But without the al,
Without the al, it would be madrasatun.
so, and that means is it fully?
Yeah, it's fully regardless with the al or without the al.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Because
without
madrasa,
the lam alif, it will not be partly declinable.
without the al, sorry?
Without the al, it will not be again partly declinable.
No, whether it's got the al or no al in this word is fully declinable.
Okay.
Yeah, whether it's got the al or no al. Because madrasa doesn't fit into any of those 5 categories we've learned.
Yeah. Okay.
Madrasa is just you could say it's a name of a place, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Madrasatun. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we put it with the al, so that there's no questions there. Okay,
Yes.
tuffahatun. Tuffahatun, which means an apple. Tuffahatun has got an at the end, which is immediately telling you that it is.
Partly declined.
No. Means tanween,
Yes.
fully. If you see
Okay,
tanween, so
fully.
the rule, so this, if you remember this, if you see a tanween, if you see a kasra, or you see an al, if you see those three, you know it's fully declinable. If
Okay.
you don't see an al, you don't see a kasra, you don't see a tanween, then there's a chance it might be partly declinable. But to be sure that it is partly declinable, it has to fit those 5 categories you've learned. Yeah, al, tanween, kasra. And if it doesn't have those 3, don't jump to the conclusion that it is partly, but make sure it's one of those 5 words. Akbaru pattern, it's a feminine name, and so on. So, for example, I could say, I just say to you the word rabba, just like that. Rabba. When I say rabba, rabba has no tanween. I've not pronounced it with a kasra, and there's no al. I just said the word rabba. Really, it's rabbun, but I just said rabba because that's how it is in the sentence. But how do I know rabba? Is it fully declinable or partly declinable? It has to meet one of the 5 that we've learned. Yeah, it's just on its own. But on its own, if it was one of those 5, if I, for example, said ajmalu, it's on its own, but ajmalu is one of the 5 that we've learned. Af'alu, it's on the pattern of af'alu, so ajmalu is partly declinable, whereas rabba is none of those 5. So I assume it's fully declinable. So your assumption is always that it's fully declinable, unless you find a reason to make it partly declinable. Okay. Are you all good online so far? So this will become more relevant when you start learning the reasons to make something rafa, to make something nasb, something jar. Okay. Arabic, yeah, Arabic name. So the way around that is, if I'm correct, so especially when you're reading Quran, there's only 4 Arabic prophets: Shu'aib, Salih, Hud, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those are the only 5. All the others are non names, and there are some exceptions, and I don't really want to go into exceptions. For example, you might say, oh, Ustadh, you mentioned those are the only 4, but how come Nuh has a tanween at the end? Nuhun, it's not Nuhu, right? There's a rule. We'll come on to those rules later on. Okay, so Nuhun is an exception, for example. Okay, any questions before we move on to the next part, which is this? So I notice I've not done all of them, but okay, let me just quickly go on to this part, which I don't really want to focus on. This is a mabni section. So just for the sake of you guys being able to do the exercise, mabni words are what words? Words which have a fixed ending, like hadha. So all these words that you see here in this list in exercise 4, they are all mabni. And mabni words, we describe them slightly different from words which are declinable. So declinable words, we say rafa, nasb, and jar. With mabni words, we describe them by the ending that they have, the haraka at the end. So if it's got a fatha at the end, so for example, huwa, we say it's mabni ala fatha. meaning it's fixed upon. Mabni means fixed. Fixed upon the fatha. When you look at the word man, what do I say? Mabni ala sukun. It just means the word is fixed upon the sukun. When we look at the word ana, what is it? Mabni ala? Is it fatha? What have I told you about the alif?
School.
So what's the so the last letter of ana is the alif, right? So it's mabni ala sukun. Uffin mabni ala. Uffin mabni ala kasra. Yeah, mabni ala kasra. So uffin, it's got a tanween at the end, so you might think it's fully declinable. No, uffin is fixed. Uffin. Okay, so that's just we're gonna do mabni. I don't know when we're gonna do mabni. I think it's maybe level 2 or 3. But it's definitely not part of the discussion for level 1. But just be aware that there are words which have this one fixed ending, so that you don't end up saying hadu, hada, hadi. Hada will always be hada. Hadihi will always be hadihi. Okay, but let's do a bit of this exercise, and then I think that kind of wraps up case ending. So let me summarize case ending for you now. Case ending, there are 3 types of endings: rafa, nas, and jar. There are signs for rafa, there are signs for nas, there are signs for jar. And how do you know whether it's rafa, nas, and jar? Refer to the Muslimun chart. The alif in the ani, the waw in the una is a sign that it's rafa, and then so on and so forth. Okay. Then you have this concept of the noon sound in the Muslimun chart, which is made by the tanween and which is made by the noon of ani, aini, aini, and the noon of una, ina, ina. To get rid of the noon sound, you either drop the tanween or you drop the noon of the dual or the noon of the plural. Okay? That's the noon sound discussion. Then the last part of case ending is declension, which is referring to the ability of the word or the ending to change. So there are words which are fully declinable, which means they can take all 3 types of endings, un and in, or u, a, e. Then you have words which are partly declinable, and those are words which can't take a tanween and they can't take a kasra. An example is Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. And then there are words which are mabni, where the ending doesn't change, it's one fixed ending. So hadha, hadha, hadha. And then there are other words which look like mabni but are not really mabni. So for example would be Musa. Musa. So these are words which end with an alif or end with a ya without the dots. Alif maksura. So Musa, Musa, Musa. And those words and the mabni words we're not really focusing on. So everything that we've done so far with the noon sound and the declension is to help you figure out whether a word is rafa, nas, and jar. So let's practice this now. Let's look at the word Ibrahim. Ibrahima. Ibrahima, is it rafa, is it nas, or is it jar? First step is figure out whether it's partly declinable or fully declinable. So Ibrahima, we know it is partly. So the case ending Ibrahima is the answer is going to be nas or jar. It would be incorrect to say just nas, because Ibrahima could be nas or it could be jar, because it's Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, or Ibrahima. If I said ala Ibrahima, your answer then would be no. If I said ala Ibrahima and I said what's the case ending of Ibrahim, you would say, what does ala do? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. What does ala do? Makes the next word
Uli.
jar. So without any context, Ibrahim is nasb or jar. Now, if I give you a reason, I say ala Ibrahima. Now your answer would be more specific. You would say Ibrahima is jar. But in this case, because I haven't given you any context, Ibrahima could be nasb or it could be jar. That makes sense? Yeah.
Yes.
As-sad. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Sorry to take you back, please.
No,
So
please.
when you're doing this example for us, can you please try and use that opportunity to go through for instance, you're looking at the word Ibrahim. Okay, is he fully or partly? Why is he fully? It doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. Or why is this supposed to be partly? It doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. So that we can kind of go through the repetition and it might stick some kind of way.
No, that's that. No, that's good. That's good. But what I want you to do, I want you guys to do that for me.
Okay.
So I want you to take me through that first. So let's do one. So I'm gonna pick on you now. So I'm gonna get you to do this. I want you to look at the word as-salati. So I want you to take me through the steps to figure out, sorry, whether it's fully declinable or partly declinable. Some words will be very straightforward. Some will take a bit more effort. So as-salati, is it fully declinable or partly declinable?
It is fully. And the reason is because of the al.
Yeah, that's one reason. And the other reason is, yeah, it's got a kasra at the end.
Kasra, yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you see a kasra, you know it's no longer partly declinable. If I said as-salata, then you've only got one reason. You'd say it's got an al in the beginning. Okay. Now let's look at the next word. Tell me, as-salati. No. So it's once it's fully declinable, what are the three types of endings? Un, and, in, or u, a, e. Rafa, nasb, jar. So rafa is u, nasb is a, jar is e. As-salati. Kasra means jar. Dhamma means rafa. Fatha is nasb. E is jar. So please try and spend some extra time, because rafa, nasb, and jar is really, 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 really important, because everything that you do now going forward will be about rafa, nasb, and jar. So you're going to be learning reasons for it to be nasb and jar. You need to be able to tell yourself whether it's rafa, whether it's nasb, or whether it's jar. Yeah. The only time where you're going to say whether it's nasb or jar is when it's partly declinable. Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. Or what's the other time in the Muslim chart? Yeah, and when you say Aini could be nasb wa jar, Ina could be nasb wa jar, Atin, ending Muslimatin could be nasb wa jar. Okay, good. So I'm going to skip a few. Let's do the word Yathribu. Yathrib. We'll do one or two more and then we'll stop. Yathrib. Now, when you look at the word Yathrib, it's got the meaning there as well, which will help you. But when you look at Yathribu, the first thing you notice is no noon sound. Okay, it's not Yathribun. So there's been a drop of tanween, but that's not enough to tell me whether it's fully declinable or partly declinable. What else do I need? I need some meaning to tell me whether it's one of the five that we've learned. Yathrib is the name of a place, the name of Medina before. So Yathribu, it is partly declinable. Why is it partly declinable? Because it's a name of a place. Yathribu. So hence it's Yathribu, Yathriba, Yathriba. So the first step, the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at Yathribu is that there's no tanween at the end. And then you have to figure out, why is there no tanween? Is it because there's an al attached to it? Al causes a tanween to drop. There's no al there. What could be the other reason? Is it a partly declinable word? Is it one of the 5 categories? And in this case, it is. Now compare that to the word hub. I've put the word is hubbu. Same process. When we look at the word hubbu, it's got no tanween at the end. So I ask
No,
myself, why has
yeah,
it not got a tanween? Has it got an al in the beginning? No al. Okay. Now I need help with the meaning. The meaning
yeah,
is
no
love.
tanween and no kasra.
Yeah,
No
it's
kasra
got
and
no
no alif.
it's got no tanween, but I can't say no kasra because I could easily just say hubbi. But I've put it it's rafa for a reason at the moment is okay, first step is no noon sound, right? That's step number 1. Why has it not got a noon sound? Why there's no tanween at the end? Has it got an al? Okay, there's no al. Second reason is could it be partly declinable? For that, I need to know the meaning. The meaning is love. Does it fit one of the 5? No. If it doesn't fit one of the 5, and I haven't told you otherwise, then assume that it is fully declinable. Because I've got no reason to say that it is partly declinable. What will tell me whether it is partly declinable for sure? The meaning will tell me. It has to be one of the 5 that I've learned. Yeah, Bismillah, Faisal.
Once you finished on this one, I've just got a question around number 7, Yathribu.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's used as a male name.
Yathribu.
Yeah,
If it's
Yathrib.
used as a male name, yeah, then it's a tricky one. I would assume it would remain as Yathribu because that's how it's originally used.
And in which case, will that just be fully declinable then, if it's the name of a man?
I wouldn't know the answer to that one. I'll find out.
Okay.
If you take, so that this could be a general question. If you take a partly declinable word and if you use it as a masculine name, then what would the result be? Does it change from it being Yathribu to Yathribun? Leave that with me. I'll ask someone. Because the general assumption would be it would stay as Yathribu, but now you're changing its usage. It's not used as a name of a place. It's now used as a masculine name. Then you're changing its original state. So I'll clarify on that, inshallah. But the hub one, I need you to be sure on this. The reason I'm not saying hub is partly declinable is because it's not one of the 5 reasons that we've learned. And it's not one of the other reasons either. And when you don't find that reason, although it's lacking a tanween, you don't say it's partly declinable. If you say partly declinable, you have to give a reason. It has to be one of the 5 that we've learned. If it's not one of the 5, just assume it is fully, and just assume that the tanween is not there because of another reason that we haven't learned. Okay? So here, hubbu is not one of the 5 reasons. Hence, hubbu will be fully declinable. So hubbun, hubban, hubbin. In this case, hubbu, hubba, hubbi. Okay? The word Isa. Yeah? So the word Isa looks like a word which is mabni, because Isa, as soon as you see an alif or a ya without the dots, which is an alif maksura, the ending will be exactly the same. Isa, Isa, Isa. Now, because the ending is the same and it's not mabni, it has to be either fully declinable or partly declinable. So I'll repeat this again. How do you know something is partly declinable?
You need to know the meaning of it.
The meaning is the first reason. The lack of tanween and the kasra is a sign that it's partly declinable. But before that, you need to know the meaning. If the meaning fits one of the 5 that you've learned, there are other reasons, it's a non-Arabic name. Isa is a non-Arabic name, hence it is partly declinable. I hope that makes sense. So for example, you say, Allahumma salli ala Isa, and I say ala Isa, what would it be? What would the case ending of Isa be? So that's the next question we're going on now. If I say ala Isa, jar, it's not, I'm not going to say Isi, I'm not going to say Isu. Isa will always be Isa. But as soon as I say ala Isa, I've given a reason for Isa to be jar. But in this one, I've given you no context. So what would your answer be then?
Would it be all 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it could be Rafa, it could be Nasb, or it could be Jar. Although it's partly declinable, you don't know what the ending of Isa is really. It could be Rafa. The Rafa would be exactly the same. This is Isa is different to Ibrahim in the sense that Ibrahima, you can see the fatha at the end. Right? With Isa, you can't see what ending it has. Ibrahim and Isa, both of them are partly declinable. But the difference between Ibrahim is that Ibrahim has a fatha at the end. If I said Ibrahimu, you would say Rafa. If I say Ibrahima, it's Nasb or Jar. Whereas Isa doesn't change whether it's Rafa, Nasb or Jar. Isa is always Isa. Isa. So that kind of wraps up today's lessons. Quite a difficult concept. You don't. Yeah, you have to try and find some time. Yeah, at least. So you've done the homework's a minimum. Homework is always the minimum. Then the Quran is where you practice it. So the more time you put in, inshallah, with time, when we do that extra session of half an hour in the beginning, when you start seeing it in practice, at the moment you're learning it without context. Once you start practicing it with context and reasons, then inshallah it'll make sense. But try and utilize the group. My only advice is for those who ask questions on the group, I highly encourage it, ask on the group. But don't ask until you've gone. So if you missed the lesson, go through the recording first, because your question might be answered there. And then if it still doesn't answer your question, then use the group. And then I always like that you guys answer the question first. And if I need to add to it, inshallah, I'll add to that. But next week, so there's a bit more of homework. So for last week, I'll try and post the answers. We'll go through this exercise next time. But next week is try and go through the lesson of number, which is the second thing that we need to learn. So case ending, number, gender type. The next part is the number section. You've already learned number to some extent. The Muslim chart, singular, dual, plural. There's just one more concept that we need to learn, which we will do next time, inshallah. So another 3 lessons, 3, 4 max, and then we'll start doing some sentences as well. Yeah, that's fine. One thing that I want to point you guys towards, I don't think it's here. Yeah, it's here. So on top of your homework, just make a start now, because there's a lot of things to memorize as you go along. So I want to space it out for you. So you've got the Muslim chart that you need to memorize. Have a look on page number 25. Just this section here, the huwa, huma, hum. Ignore the one next to it. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. I'll post it on the group as well. But just get into the flow of memorizing that. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. And then when the time comes, it becomes a bit easier to go through it. Okay? That's probably another 2 or 3 lessons away, but try and learn that as well, the pronoun chart. Inshallah, if there's no questions, we will stop here. Sorry, we've run over by 10 minutes, but inshallah, we'll stop here. And if there are any questions, just please drop me a message or ask on the group first. Yeah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.